All right, so now let's talk risk factors, warning signs, and protective factors, which are really key in determining the level of threat when we are working with our scholars um, who we are assessing for threat of violence. So let's talk about it. So, as you can see here, the protective and risk factors, part D, is the section where we are looking to see which of those factors the scholar has or doesn't have. So, what are risk factors? So, they're characteristics or circumstances that may elevate concern, and they're contributing factors, but they're not predictors. So, these are some examples of what risk factors are. So it could be a grievance with a peer staff or a romantic interest, history of being bullied, history of trauma, family conflict or instability, mental health concerns, history of aggression or disciplinary action, substance use, access to weapons, especially firearms, social isolation, marginalization, significant recent stressor or loss, prior contact with law enforcement. And then warning signs are observable behaviors that may indicate movement along the pathway to violence. So that could include leakage, which is hinting at intent, such as via online or writing, direct or specific threats towards targets or individuals, fixation with weapons or attackers, identification with extremist ideologies, planning, research, acquiring means, escalating aggression towards specific persons, last resort statements. So something that sounds like they feel they have nothing to lose, final acts such as giving away possessions, sudden behavior changes, or online posts of violent imagery or intent. So just to emphasize again that a risk factor on its own doesn't mean a scholar is a threat. The risk factors may elevate concern, but it's not a predictor. And then warning signs, the things that you observe are more of evidence to look more closely at or to consider. So just kind of be more vigilant. But it's not something that should lead you to a specific conclusion. It's more should lead you to get more curious. So um, just because a scholar has all of these things or has many of these does not mean that they will cause a threat, but this information, along with what you gather in your interview, can help decide whether a scholar falls in a certain risk level or risk or threat level. And then protective factors are the other side. So they're characteristics or conditions that reduce the likelihood of violence. And the five domains that we have here include personal, social, family, community, and school. So personal protective factors include sense of worth, learned problem-solving skills, impulse control, help-seeking behaviors, access to mental health care. Social includes connectedness to others, positive friend groups, resolution of grievances through restorative means. Family includes a strong relationship with at least one parent or caregiver, family supervision and engagement, removal or restriction of access to firearms in the home, and community can include religious or spiritual connections, activity groups, uh, involvement with activity groups, advocacy opportunities, volunteering. School can include a trusted adult who knows the scholar well, a sense of belonging where identity is seen and valued, engagement in classes and activities, effective bullying prevention, low barrier ways to report concerns, uh, including anonymous ways, and a team of folks like yourself who intervene early with support and not just reactive with discipline. I want to highlight that uh, the U.S. Secret Service report uh, regarding protecting America's school, this is back from 2019, is that there's no profile of a student attacker. Attackers vary widely in demographics, academic performance, and social behavior. So there's not like a foolproof checklist that identifies a future attacker. But what that means for our assessments is that factors elevate concern, but they don't predict. Um, they warrant warning signs warrant inquiry, but they're not conclusions. And then the totality of the circumstances. We really need to assess behavior, content, target, means, and stressors together. No single person should assess alone. So just make sure that you are gleaning information from multiple sources and then avoid bias. Be vigilant against assumptions tied to race, identity, disability, or disciplinary history, and lead with support as much as possible. And I know our sites really do a lot in this area is disrupting the pathway to violence by addressing the underlying need. So again, prevention is always key. And we do want to be vigilant with the information that we do know, but know that, even with all of the different examples of risk factors and warning signs, those don't necessarily mean that a scholar will definitively engage in violent behavior.